Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Perfect World based on novel. So let's start. Inside Stone Country's imperial palace, Shahao sat with his legs crossed, appearing solemn and dignified. Around him, 10 great heavenly passages were opened. They released an undying aura. The lights all linked up together. Heavens. These are His Majesty's 10 great heavenly passages. A few imperial guards cried out in alarm, all of them excited and shocked. This was the first time they saw Shahao display them. Even the War King, Peng 9, and the others were shocked. They couldn't help but sigh in admiration. For Shahao to be able to reach this day, it was definitely not a fluke. He reached the peak of every single cultivation realm, making him terrifying to the extreme. Shahao sat there, appearing solemn and dignified. Inside the 10 great heavenly passages were the Kuan Peng, Swan Ni, Vermilion Bird, and others, floating up and down. Following a grunt from him, these creatures all rushed out. Your Majesty, be careful. Even though the spiritual bodies are powerful, if you travel into the great regions separately like this, problems might occur. Peng 9 warned. The Ming King nodded and said, those great sects have stood tall since the ancient times until now, so there is definitely a reason for their glory. Your Majesty has to be careful. Shahao discovered from that supreme expert's Sea of Consciousness that there were two powers that participated in the last operation from the ocean race. One was a Grey Flood Dragon Supreme Expert, and the other was a Sea Demon Race Supreme Expert. These two Supreme Experts had grudges against Shahao before, especially the Grey Flood Dragon Supreme Expert. During the chaotic battle of the Northern Sea, it had tried to kill Shahao several times, but in the end, it had one of its spiritual bodies killed by Shahao. A Kuan Peng directly flew towards the Northern Sea for these two. Then, a purple gold swan Ni roared. Electrical radiance crackled about it. It was originally huge and swirling with symbols, but now it shrunk, becoming less than a meter in size. It ascended the ancestral altar, heading for Little Western Paradise. Shahao never thought that this sect would also take action and deal with Stone Country. This was definitely unforgivable. Little Western Paradise was actually going to take action as well. Truly hateful. The War King said. Fortunately, Shahao learned about it first, or else they wouldn't have known that this type of power also joined in. A vermilion bird spread its wings, its entire body was incomparably red. It left through that ancestral altar and headed for the Western sect. Then, a human-shaped spiritual body appeared, one that carried the broken black sword. It headed for Immortal Mountain. Finally, a true phoenix with brilliant feathers appeared. It raised its head and cried towards the sky. It left through the altar towards Heaven Mending Sect. Shahao's several great spiritual bodies left one after another to lock onto those sects' supreme experts to prevent them from escaping first. If this level of character was going to escape, then they would definitely bring about a disaster in the future. He set his resolution to deal with these great sects, so he naturally wouldn't let those main culprits leave. They were all going to be killed clean. Everyone's eyes were dazzling as they watched Shahao release several spiritual bodies. Their powers were heaven overflowing. They were now truly going to take action. What followed would definitely be a crazy storm. That day, several great sects received the bone books that were sent out. They all trembled endlessly. A supreme expert actually died. What exactly happened? The hardest thing for them to accept was that Stone Country threatened them in reverse, demanding that they hand over their sect-protecting precious artifacts, saying that they were ominous objects, and that a blood disaster would occur if they didn't. This was intolerable. Their words of threat were sent back untouched, and with even more intimidation. Who exactly is that person? Doesn't Heaven Mending Sect and Little Western Paradise each have a supreme expert in Stone Country? Ask them to investigate this thoroughly. If Shahao saw this individual, he definitely would have recognized him. Back then, when he fought against the Big Stone in the Void God realm, this individual had taken action with Grandma Shihua to kill him. It was precisely a supreme expert from Heaven Mending Sect. Back then, this individual used curse power, an extremely strange type of power, almost affecting Shahao's Dao. Go, let's take a look to see exactly what kind of deity appeared in Stone Clan. They stopped their long breathing and stood up, hurrying over towards Stone Country Imperial Capital. There was still a set amount of distance from Stone Country Imperial City, but the two stopped moving. Heaven Mending Sect's elder laughed coldly and said, "We aren't going to take risks, and are just going to stay outside. Watch how I teach them a bloody lesson." He decisively used curse power to kill a few important people in Stone Country, and throw the Imperial Capital into chaos. It was impossible to guard against. The corners of his mouth grinned, revealing snow-white teeth, appearing cruel and merciless. "Did you guys just come?" A cold voice sounded. In that instant, both Supreme Experts' bodies went rigid. They were both horrified. That voice was too clear, as if it sounded right by their ears. They were still quite far from Stone Country Capital City, but they were discovered so quickly. This was too terrifying. Who is that person? Everyone saw a hazy figure that was tightly wrapped within layers of mists, one that seemed quite young appear high up in the sky. Immediately afterwards, Heaven Mending Sect and Little Western Paradise's Supreme Experts were horrified. They saw Shahao's true appearance. They couldn't help but scream out loudly, feeling as if they saw a ghost. "How can this be? You are still alive." They all felt their fine hairs stand up straight. The instant they saw Shahao's true appearance, cold sweat ran all the way down from their heads down to their feet. This was too shocking. This person had clearly died. Everyone in the world knew about it, so how could he still be alive? Go. They didn't think about staying for a moment, turning around and leaving. The little stone reappeared, leaving them completely shaken. They didn't have any intention of fighting a decisive battle. Their only wish was to flee as far as possible. Shahao's speed was extremely fast. Kuan-Peng wings appeared, and heavenly overflowing divine might swept outwards. He possessed extreme speed, cutting off their route of retreat instantly. Meanwhile, the War King, Ming King, Peng King and others appeared as well, bringing their imperial guards. They appeared high up in the sky and exuded tremendous power and pressure. Who is that? Many people from Stone Country Capital City stared at Shahao's figure, feeling greatly puzzled. Bright mist surrounded that place, making it a bit indistinct. However, they felt a bit of déjà vu. Kill. The two great Supreme Experts shouted out loud, wishing to break free from this place. Shahao's wings moved, and then with a loud sound, yin and yang energies swirled together before sweeping out like a sea. They were immediately shaken to the point where blood shot out from their mouths. A battle immediately broke out. It was incredibly fierce and tyrannical, shaking heaven and earth. They had just exchanged attacks, yet Little Western Paradise's Supreme Expert already cried out miserably. The pair of sparkling white ivory teeth were broken off, landing in Shahao's hands. He tossed them over to the Ming King and the others. How could you still be in this world?" The white jade dragon elephant was unwilling to accept this. "Stone Emperor, exactly how did you survive?" Heaven Mending Sect's Supreme Expert's heart was pounding. He truly couldn't understand why this dead person was able to appear again. When these words were spoken, Stone Country Imperial City was shaken. This news was too astonishing. It was too hard to believe. "You want to perform a curse? You alone aren't enough," Shahao coldly said. He raised his hand, sending out electrical radiance like an ocean. It swept out with pi-li-pa-la sounds. All of the curse power was wiped out. Heaven Mending Sect's Supreme Expert cried out miserably. Half of his body was scorched black. The world was in an uproar. What was going on? I know what happened. Perhaps the little stone truly revived. The swan Ni, Vermilion Bird, and Kuan-Peng are all his spiritual bodies. Someone suddenly understood with a flash and trembled uncontrollably. What is going on with the true phoenix? I never heard of him cultivating this precious technique. This proves something else. Back then, rumors had it that he captured Fairy Yu Chan, and now, it seems to be true. He obtained this damaged precious technique from her. That day, the entire world was shaken. Everyone found this somewhat difficult to believe, but they couldn't help but develop doubts. Could it be that Shahao truly returned to life? This was too shocking. The entire world was astonished. A supreme being youth that had disappeared for more than a year reappeared. There was nothing more ridiculous or shocking than this. Is it truly the little stone? Heavens, What happened? He was actually able to survive and reappear. This is crazy. In just a day, he moved out with several spiritual bodies and suppressed several great sects. How domineering is this? This really is like a sovereign descending. A single person could deal with several great sects, choosing to take action all in one day. A warship made of lazurite several thousand jong in length moved across the sky. It shocked quite a few inheritances in the wasteland region. This was one of Stone Country's divine-level warships. It was going to cross the dome of heaven and break through the rigid region wall, crossing over into other great regions. It released an extremely powerful pressure. What region are they heading towards? Stone Country is going to take major action. Right now, the wasteland region had long clamored with noise. Everyone was making guesses at whether Shahao truly revived. Even now, they weren't certain. Rumor has it that this was the #1 boat of the Stone clan in the ancient era. When its horn sounded, the entire country's experts would move out and fight to the death against enemies in a decisive battle. After so many years had passed, everyone had almost forgotten about this ancient boat. Now, it reappeared, crossing the heavens. Were they going to suppress an undying inheritance, or ancient country? They broke through the region wall. They are heading for the mysterious region. News immediately transmitted outwards, triggering a huge uproar. They weren't pretending and truly crossed regions to carry out a huge battle. The lazurite warship pierced through the void, arriving in the mysterious region. This naturally triggered huge chaos. Many people were shocked. Beside him, there was the War King, Ming King, Peng King, and several thousand imperial guards. Their strength was extremely great. Forget about everything else, just the 3 great supreme experts alone could sweep through a sect. One of Shahao's spiritual bodies remained in Stone Capital to oversee this place, so they didn't have to worry about place. In reality, they didn't have to move out that many people, but since they already decided to take action and punish the undying great sects, they couldn't do it in a low-profile manner. Since that was the case, they might as well fight, display their divine might and shock the world. The divine-grade warship was covered in beautiful metal wires. The most precious area wasn't its offensive or defensive power, but its speed. It had some void-penetrating divine might. This type of precious artifact was extremely rarely seen. Perhaps some weapons might be able to tear open the void, but it was impossible for them to move through it long-term. Immortal Mountain, a place where tall peaks towered imposingly and purple energy lingered about. This was a place where dragons arose, but in recent years, they continuously suffered disasters. The first place Shahao chose to fight was here. You all are Stone Country's people. The Qin clan's higher-level figures came. They stood in front of the mountain gate, all of them shaking endlessly. Were they going to attack Immortal Mountain with everything they had? They felt extremely uncertain inwardly, feeling a bit terrified. Stone Country currently had several supreme experts, while they only had one. If a war truly broke out, the results would be too horrible to think about. My Qin clan has never offended you all. So why are you bringing your army towards our mountain gate, treating us like this? An elder asked in a loud voice. Is there still a need to talk any further? Some of your Qin clan's people colluded with several great sects, leaking them all types of information, yet you still claim to be innocent. The War King spoke in an incredibly cold tone. He didn't have a single good impression of the Qin clan. A year ago, Shahao fell here, and when he was recuperating, they tried to harm him several times, narrowly avoiding an even earlier death. If not for giving Shaziling and Qin Yining face, they would have taken action back then and overturned this place. This time, even though the Qin clan didn't directly take action, they relied on Shaziling, Qin Yining, Qin Hao, and Shahao's complex relationship to obtain a few secrets from Stone Country. They leaked it out, colluding with several great sects to obtain the void gold and other items. What? That is Shahao. Everyone in front of the Qin clan's gate were shocked. They all stared with open mouths and stupefied expressions, not daring to believe what they were looking at. News was spreading from the wasteland region, but Immortal Mountain only heard a bit of rumors. How could they believe such a thing? However, now the living person appeared, impossible. He died a year ago. An elder cried out loudly, unable to accept this reality. You have to understand that they understood more than the others. Qin Yining had previously stayed in that so-called stone village, not willing to head into the higher realms, because of Shahao's grave. If Shahao was still alive, why would she do something like that? Now that Shahao came here again, his heart was sighing with sorrow. Without saying anything, he directly swept his eyes over the Qin clan's higher-level figures. Everyone's minds trembled. Before, they had even thought about overturning this ancient country. They never thought that it would be flipped over today, having their own gates attacked, forcing them to compromise to avoid a disaster. Close the mountain gates and start up the great formations. Kill all intruders that dare to charge in. Immortal Mountain's supreme expert shouted, giving this order. Qin clan's important characters all retreated. They all felt extremely annoyed. They were going to use their great formations to attack, letting these intruders pay the price of blood. Just some damaged magical formations, yet you dare to make such a display. The Ming King roared with laughter. At this moment, multicolored light flashed in Shahao's hair. The divine striking stone flew out, descending together with the three great supreme experts, to directly break through the formation. What? The Qin clansmen all cried out in alarm. Kill! Immortal Mountain's supreme expert's face immediately fell. With a divine magical artifact in his hand, he took to the air. He wanted to use the great killing weapon in his hands to immediately kill the three great supreme experts. However, he was set up for disappointment. The three great supreme experts each held an ancient magical artifact in their hands. They were all left behind by deities. All of them erupted with radiance and hacked forward. You all dared to scheme against my stone country and harm Stone Emperor a year ago. Everything will be settled now. Kill! Shouts of killing resounded through the skies. The three great supreme experts led thousands of younger experts directly into Immortal Mountain, sweeping through this place. All those that dared to rebel were killed without mercy. That day, Immortal Mountain was broken through. The higher-level figures were completely wiped out, and the number of casualties was great. The ones that tried to harm Shahao to death before were all found by the three old kings and killed. All those that colluded with the great sects to deal with Stone Country were all killed as well. After this battle, the Qin clan was completely ruined. They were completely struck off the list of holy lands, their lower realm sect completely collapsed, never to rise again. If not for the fact that Qin Yining was Shahao's mother, this inheritance might have been completely wiped out. Western sect and heaven-mending sect aren't ordinary. They had never been broken through by others before. They had existed since the ancient times, so their accumulation is astonishing. They definitely have many divine objects. The Peng King said. Qin clan has an extremely large formation inside. It is massive and full of mysteries. An imperial guard reported. After conducting an interrogation, Stone Country learned that this was a super transport formation that could cross regions. Just now, there were some people who used this to flee. It leads to the heaven-mending sect. That's fine, let's go as well, use this information to head to our next destination. Shahao said. He immediately began to activate it. The bugle horn sounded. The lazurite warship was started up, and then the entire ship released a hazy radiance, departing from this super transport formation. They quickly entered another great region. A true phoenix took to the air. Its entire body was covered in brilliant feathers. It danced about in the air, carrying with it powerful divine might as it continuously attacked heaven-mending sect's mountain gate. Mountain rocks flew about chaotically. Many symbols flickered about. The great mountain protecting formation shone. Many experts were fighting there, as if they were facing a great enemy. They all hid inside while carrying out a defense. This was, of course, Shahao's spiritual body that was sent ahead of time to lock this place down, preventing heaven-mending sect's supreme experts from fleeing. The mountain gate had already been damaged. If not for the divine level formations protecting this place, it would have been broken through a long time ago. This place possessed powerful might, with bone text interweaving about. They continuously surged out from within the mountain gate. So powerful. Everyone from Stone Country was dazzled as they watched this. Shahao's power alone forced an undying inheritance to fight behind their gate. This type of bombardment was truly incredible. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been chased away a long time ago. They would have long been killed. A phoenix cry tore through the air. Tens of thousands of streaks of multicolored lights shot out. It circled about in the air before quickly flying towards the lazurite warship. In the blink of an eye, it entered one of the true Shahao's heavenly passages. The lazurite warship closed in. Heaven-mending sect's people all frowned, feeling as if something was off. They already knew what was going on. Just now, a few people from Immortal Mountain fled here. You really are Shahao. A shout sounded from within. The enormous warship stopped. Blue-green light flickered about. Shahao stood at the head of the ship while overlooking the world below. He revealed his true body, immediately raising cries of alarm. Their reactions were just like Immortal Mountain's. There wasn't a single cultivator from Heaven-mending sect whose expression didn't change. They were all incomparably shaken. They unexpectedly met the little stone again. This was definitely a disaster. Back then, they still didn't believe that the true phoenix was his spiritual body, but now, it was obvious. You all threatened my stone country, saying that if we didn't hand the void furnace over to you, there would be a blood tragedy. Shahao calmly said, his voice containing neither joy nor worry. Everyone's expressions changed. This time, they truly kicked a metal board. They wanted to obtain the void furnace, so they carried out a threat. Who would have expected that Shahao would revive and come back at this time? This matter will end here. Things have been exposed already. This voice sounded from Heaven-mending sect. They wanted to make peace talks. Giving up. Exposed. Shahao's voice was calm, but he was shaking his head. Back then, there were supreme experts from this sect who tried to kill him, and this time, they even wanted to deal with Stone Country. He wanted to wipe this place out, not willing to accept this conclusion. Shahao, what a pity. You cannot go up either, because the heavenly paths have been severed. A supreme expert from the Heaven-mending sect said. There is no need for your concern. Do you want to open the mountain gates yourself, or do you want to wait until I slaughter my way in? Shahao coldly spoke. Even though he wasn't old, there was a great imposing aura to his figure. Shahao, are you really going to become my sect's enemy? A voice shouted out from within, it is you all that forced me to fight you all to the end. I only came to satisfy your wishes. Shahao replied. Kill. Behind him, the War King, Peng King, and Ming King brought the several thousand soldiers with them. They roared out together, shaking the world with their voices, making all of Heaven-mending sect's holy land tremble. This type of thing had never happened before. Heaven-mending sect that was reputed to be undying had its gates destroyed, and the enemy was going to slaughter their way in. Demon locking formation, activate. Someone shouted from within Heaven-mending sect, activating a great ancient formation to stop Shahao's onslaught. Shahao erupted with power. His head of black hair danced chaotically behind him. Symbols covered his entire body, as he wielded 5 divine magical artifacts, sending them towards that great formation. He was going to use their great power to destroy it. These 5 magical artifacts were carefully selected. They corresponded with the 5 elements and were chosen after great thought. Under his control, endless divine radiance poured out, immediately entering the great formation to seal it in place. Shahao immediately rushed inside. With a raise of his hand, symbols poured out like a sea. Everything erupted, shattering the great formation that was locked in place and causing it to completely break apart. This was a violent yet beautiful sight. A few of Heaven-mending sect's experts coughed out blood. They weren't able to retreat in time, and as a result, their bodies began to break apart. Large expanses of corpses could be seen. Retreat to the central region of the Holy Land. Activate all formations. A supreme expert from Heaven-mending sect shouted. He felt extremely anxious. Shahao was powerful beyond imagination. These 5 magical artifacts were specially prepared for breaking through formations. Stone Emperor is without equal. Behind him, the several thousand young individuals shouted. Their voice rang through the air like thunder, shaking Heaven-mending sect. The imposing lazurite warship was started up again. This formation is so terrifying. I can't break through it or see through it. The divine striking stone seemed to be struggling. Since we already slaughtered our way here, we can't just give up halfway. Shahao said. He already made a firm resolution to overturn Heaven-mending sect. This was a holy land with expanses of medicinal fields. They were incomparably fragrant. Meanwhile, the islands in the sky were even shining. There were many spiritual herbs, and there was even a spiritual spring and others. They gushed forth, surging with immortal energy. It has a gap. This great formation is damaged and not completely arranged. There is a hole. The divine striking stone cried out in excitement. The truth was that heaven-mending formation was too complicated. Once it was damaged, there was simply no way for those of the lower realm to repair it. Over the endless passage of time, a portion of the formation had long suffered damage. All right, break it. Shahao said. I need time, at least 7 days. The divine striking stone said. The little stone has revived. He is truly astonishing after all. Is he going to attack all of the holy lands of this world alone? That day, the world erupted into commotion. Shahao's actions were too crazy, leaving everyone shocked. Everyone knew that these great sects had all targeted him and Stone Country. Now that Shahao returned, he was incomparably firm and resolute. He was going to overturn them one after another. Time passed, one day after another. On the 8th day, heaven-mending sect's great battle ended. Shahao slaughtered his way in with world-shaking divine might. A Kuanpeng spread its wings, erupting with a strand of chaotic energy. Those supreme experts were blasted to pieces. Heaven-mending sect was breached and completely overturned. This left the entire world speechless. This was just too astonishing. It had to be mentioned that heaven-mending sect's backing was deep and their collection abundant. Divine materials were piled high in their treasury, far surpassing what Stone Country's inner treasury once had. Meanwhile, inside those medicinal fields, there were even more spiritual herbs that couldn't be found everywhere. They were all aged-old medicines. There were even a few rare wondrous medicines that were hard to find even if one searched the entire world. This time, neither the Little Pagoda nor Undying Existence were here. Regardless of whether it was the divine materials or spiritual medicines, none of them would be wasted. Episode 113 Part 1 end here.